Leading up to the Boston Massacre, in the year 1765, Parliament passed the extremely rejected Stamp Act, which was a direct tax on all printed paper. The Crown argued the revenue projected would be used to protect the colonies, but colonists did not accept this reason and counter-argued that a tax imposed without the granting of representation in the British government was not acceptable. This act was violently protested against, resulting in its repeal in just months. Parliament then came to the conclusion that the colonies would reject direct taxation, but perhaps trouble would not arise from indirect taxes. With this concept in mind, a man named Charles Townshend created a set of laws that became known as the Townshend Acts, in which duties were placed on 5 British goods: paper, paint, lead, glass, and tea. This time, the Crown stated that the taxes collected from these 5 items would go towards maintaining an army in America, but in reality, it was used to pay the salaries of governors and judges. Reaction to Townshend Acts in 1767. In response to the tax merchants, they organized economic boycotts to get Britain to repeal the acts. Bostonian merchants organized the first non-importation agreement, which called for a suspension on the importation of certain British goods, which would start on January 1st of 1769. This movement, unfortunately, was unsuccessful and came to an end in 1771. Boston Massacre of 1770. Tension began to grow in the colonies, especially in Boston. Since the American Custom Board was located in this city, the Townshend Acts were strictly enforced, and rejection was worse here than anywhere else throughout the colonies. The fear that Boston would get out of control led the board to request naval and military assistance from Britain. Commander Samuel Hood responded by sending 50-gun warships in May 1768, and with this tension increased even more amongst Bostonians. An incident in June 1768 involving the seizing of a ship Liberty owned by John Hancock accused of smuggling. The people of Boston began to riot because they argued that the captain of the British fleet stationed there was targeting local sailors. As time progressed, it allowed for a tipping point to be reached, which was the death of a Boston teenager, Christopher Sider, at the hands of a Customs Board employee in February 1770. Even though Boston soldiers weren't involved in this tragic incident, anger towards them escalated to another degree, which resulted in the notorious Boston Massacre. An angry mob of Bostonians began to harass a squad of British soldiers, throwing snowballs and rocks at the troops. A soldier was hit, which caused him to accidentally fire his gun at the crowd, and other soldiers followed by firing their weapons as well. At the end, there were a total of 5 Bostonians killed in this unexpected conclusion. Word got back to Parliament on the same day this incident occurred, and the British Prime Minister, Lord North, called only for a partial repeal of the Townshend Acts. He stated that the tea duty should be kept in order to show Americans Britain had the right to tax them. He proposed this idea to the House of Commons, who accepted it, and then Repeal Act was passed on April 2nd of 1770. The Boston Massacre was an important event in history which would be factor in finalizing the decision for the American colonies to separate from the British Crown.